Joining us is Hunter Horsley. He's the founder and CEO of Bitwise Asset Management. So, Hunter, there's still a lot of pent-up demand for Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's remarkable, Kelly. In some ways, it feels like Bitcoin has been around forever now. We've been talking about it for years. It's 16 years old. But I think that 2024 was really the end of an early chapter and the beginning of a mainstream chapter. And we serve, we manage about 11 billion in client assets. We serve thousands of advisors. And the clear impression we have is that investors are engaging now. They view it as finally having matured enough, having the regulatory clarity they need. So somehow it feels like the beginning of the next stage of the journey.
And we were talking about this with Jan Van Eck earlier in the week, but we're somewhere, you can tell me, between, what is it, 18 and 19 million of the 21 million coins being mined?
That's right. Yep. About 19 million of the coins. So there's not a lot of, as Michael from MicroStrategy said, there's not a lot of new coins being mined, and that means that for new investors, there has to be somebody on the other side of that that's willing to sell, and that influences price, and so I think we've seen a very strong demand side, and there's not a lot of supply for those investors.
Bill Miller has been making the case for a decade now that basically if you just have a lot of high net worth households all deciding they want to own one Bitcoin, for instance, that alone could drive up the price to something well north of where we are now. So I think he would echo those sentiments that it's still early days.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is absolutely early days, and again, it's kind of hard to imagine it's been around for so long, but. I'll give you an example. We as mentioned, serve thousands of wealth management teams across the country. The day after the election, one of my colleagues got an email from a client. The subject line was "It's time," and the content of the email was effectively that they want to go ahead and proceed with making a 1% allocation to Bitcoin. That hasn't even happened yet. I have a call later today with the CIO of a $50 billion plus firm, and they said it's time, and the next step is to write a white paper in Q1 of next year. So what we see across the board is traditional capital markets participants are activating, but most of that is still in front of us. So yeah. I think Bitcoin has a lot of room to run.
So who's selling? Because every time we see the price wiggle, that means someone decided 99,100 was a good price. Do you know the share of institutional versus retail ownership these days?
Yeah, the retail ownership is very high in this space. I believe it's north of 50%, maybe north of 60. In terms of who's selling, it can be a variety of different stories. There's a combination of retail investors who want to take some gains, and also there's a large segment of hedge fund traders who are running strategies and trading around volatility that are often supplying, sitting on the supply side, as well as, of course, the miners. So it's hard to put your finger on exactly who it is, but in general, the demand side has been so strong that it's pushed the price higher as it's outstripped the supply.
Wow, look at Coinbase now at 308. So its run also continues. Yeah. A lot of these. I mean, Coinbase is up. Could it have doubled in the past 2 weeks? It's just remarkable. I guess real quickly before we go on that, Hunter, do you think they're going to be disintermediated by Bitcoin ETFs, or is Coinbase still where it's at?
Coinbase, yeah. I mean, to your point, Kelly, Coinbase has just moved incredibly since the election, and I think this reflects the characteristic of this new chapter, which is a world in which there's no longer a regulatory headwind, but the space is being embraced, and I think people view Coinbase's future much more optimistically. I think the story on Coinbase, which they've said in earnings calls, is that it's Amazon for crypto. And they've now built out a number of business lines servicing both on-chain activities and investment in the space. So I think there's a ton of opportunity ahead for Coinbase. And I think we're going to see a number of IPOs in the future, and people are going to realize that there are several large crypto businesses that have been sitting privately that'll come to the market as well.
That would be enjoyable. I hope that's the case. And I think, like you were saying, there's also so many altcoins or meme coins, whatever you want to call them, that have also just been up huge the last couple of weeks, and they still are kind of the go-to for access to some of that. Hunter, thanks for joining us. It's good to check in. We appreciate it today.